Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Pitafi. Once again, we are going to talk about the political situation in the country. On one side, we know that the government battles on, keeps on moving ahead. Pakistan saw PSL final being held in Karachi, and that was quite successful. The overall confidence in the government seems very strong. We have seen one IRI, opinion poll showing that more than 50% of people believe in the Prime Minister's capabilities and that he is doing a good job. But then there are other issues in the country. For example, there's the matter of a hung parliament. We haven't seen any momentum in the parliament so far on legislative side. That is one thing. Then is the issue of PMLN's former leader, Mia Nawaz Sharif's health. We see point scoring from both sides, from his own party, and we see point scoring coming from the government side as well. The fourth actually issue is of People's Party, their fake account cases, and what exactly is going to become of that. Today we are going to talk about all these matters and then try to divine the economic direction of the country as well. In order to help us understand these issues, we are joined by Javed Siddique Saab, needs no introduction, a regular on the show, a senior journalist, anchor, editor, columnist, whatnot. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Dr. Niaz Murza, a political economist, also a columnist for one of the leading dailies in the country. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Next to him is Nasir Jafri Saab, another career journalist, works for a foreign news agency. Thank you very much, sir, for being part of the program. Javed Siddique Saab, if you were asked to assess the current political situation, what is going to be your opening remarks?
Well, I think Pakistan has been passing through turmoil after turmoil, unfortunately.
Right.
And we still are passing through a very troubled situation.
Like what?
I mean, the escalation between India and Pakistan is the latest. And that has had impact on various aspects of life, particularly our economy. I think after the visit of MBS, Mohammed bin Sulaiman of Saudi Arabia, and the visit of the UAE chief, plus other factors which were going to have a positive impact on our economy. Investment was coming to Pakistan, and these things were happening. And I think the feel-good factor was there.
Right.
But unfortunately, this escalation between India and Pakistan has had a very negative impact on everything.
Okay.
And that has that's
But
a very
that
negative.
is the external angle,
Exactly.
right? What about the internal?
The internal, you have mentioned that
PSL?
PSL, it is a good news, and I think it was very well managed, and it has sent a very positive message abroad that Pakistan is now a peaceful country and it is capable of holding international cricket matches in Pakistan.
Right.
Another feel-good factor. The political situation is really very precarious in the sense that you have said in your intro that the situation in the parliament is not comfortable for the government. The government is unable to legislate because of its slim majority in the parliament. And given the relationship between the government and the opposition parties, because of this process of accountability and the cases being built against the opposition leaders, I mean, former President Mr. Zardari, former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif is in jail, and he and his daughter and other supporters of PMLN chief, they are complaining that he's suffering from heart problems. The government is not allowing him to go outside for any treatment. And also the former Prime Minister has moved an application in the Supreme Court of Pakistan to get a bail for the treatment. So all these things are going on. I mean, simultaneously
Right.
these are.
So they are adding to the confusion in the
I
situation.
think these are the problems, and these need to be addressed by the government.
Right.
How the government
And
addresses
as
it.
we move forward, I'm going to come back to you and ask you two things. One, how can government address these issues? B, you said that former Prime Minister is not being allowed to go abroad. I mean, there are so many doctors in this country. Nobody can actually treat him. This is a big question. But sir, how do you see the situation, Dr. Saab, Dr. Niaz Murza, at this
I
moment?
broadly agree with my colleague here. The big hope from this election was that, after the election, we will have political stability so that, the country can start focusing instead of fighting with each other. The country could focus on, the enormous challenges that it is facing in so many different areas. The hope was that, you'll have a government with a strong majority which is able to then, start, addressing the challenges. But unfortunately, none of these 3 or 4 things have happened. There was all these controversies about the election itself, whether it's fair or not. Then, the very thin majority that the PTI was able to get, despite, the suggestions that there was some rigging. And then
By the
the
way,
fact,
just to point out,
Yeah.
according to this International Republican Institute survey in Pakistan, 84%
I
of
know that, I have
Pakistanis
read
believe,
that, I have read that.
yeah,
But
believe
I
that
mean,
it was elections were fair and
but
free.
that by itself is, no. But I mean, let's not get into that controversy. This is not what the program
It's
is.
a-
This is
it's
that
also
was
a
just in
controversy.
passing.
Okay.
There are other reports like what Pildar said, what the European Union said. But let's focus on the fact that then finally the hope was that there'd be a government that would start present a very strong team which looks capable of dealing with the challenges.
don't agree with that
And
team?
I don't agree with that. Every day it seems to be getting more and more mired in controversies. Many of them created by the government itself, about Fayyaz Hassan Chauhan's speech,
I mean, the
Asad
government,
Omar's speech.
government
Then the
removed
needless
him immediately.
the needless bill in the Punjab Assembly. So what's happening is that it's just firefighting. Instead of the headlines being about its accomplishments. The accomplishments now are being presented that somebody does something foolish, and then the Prime Minister comes running and fixes that. Is that going to be your list of accomplishments
Yeah.
after 2 years, 3 years, that every time something foolish happens, the Prime Minister nips that in the bud? But then there are no positive accomplishment as such. Okay, this problem resolved, that problem resolved. The team looks very competent. There's good policies coming out. So you don't really see much of that.
I'm glad that you mentioned 2-3 years,
Yeah.
because the government has not actually completed 1 year in power.
No, nobody expects concrete
Yeah.
outputs. But what we were hoping by now was a competent looking team which is focused on its job, rather than fighting with the opposition and then within itself.
Yeah.
And then at least some policies coming out in the major areas, taxation, industry. If you can't have even policies after
We are going
6
to
months,
talk about
then-
that as well. Let me bring in Nasir Jafri sir. Your take, sir.
There are 2-3 things, Pitafi. First of all, there were enormous problems and challenges when then this government came into power. But the situation gradually started improving after. Saudi Arabia helped us, UAE agreed to help us
You're
on
talking
economic
about
front.
economic
Yeah.
crisis. Yeah.
But then everything got topsy-turvy after this foolishness by
In your
Modi.
side? Yeah.
I mean, you know that.
He is not foolish, by the way.
Well, but I mean,
He
if
might
you
be suicidal, but he is not
suicidal, I mean, suicide is somewhat foolishness, I would say. So, so basically, then suddenly the indicators went wrong. Economic indicators. Whenever such things happen, it always have negative impact on your stock exchange, on your economic indicators. There was kind of an uncertainty which continued to engulf this country. And still there is lot of uncertainty. Even yesterday, Foreign Minister was saying that we should expect anything until elections are held in India and new government comes into power.
Yeah.
So
Amazingly, somehow India's elections are our responsibility now. We have to wait for them.
thanks to the wisdom of Mr. Modi, I would
Okay.
say.
Right.
So, I mean, things were improving. But even still, I am quite optimistic. You see, why we are not going to IMF? Because we have immediate support from Saudi Arabia, from UAE, which came as a breather, certainly. So, we would certainly like to have conditions, conducive conditions of our choice.
No, I get about economic aspects, but what about political situation?
Political situation, Patafi, is certainly not good because we have our parliamentarians, MPs have not been able to legislate, mainly because of these political acrimonies and things like that. But you know, dust always settles. And I'm pretty sure it will settle. I mean, most of the people say
Who's
you
going
are
to-
very optimistic.
I'm sorry, who is going to settle?
I mean, the dust will certainly settle. So, I mean, hopefully, yes. I mean, look at this Pak India tensions and escalation. Everybody got united.
No,
So when
that is
national
true,
important
but-
national issues come up,
Sir, but do you agree with this assessment that People's Party and PMLN are not going to cooperate with the government regarding legislation till the time they don't get an NRO?
I think NRO, for in my own opinion, is out of question.
Okay.
Because
No, but do you agree with this assessment?
no, there are many issues on which I don't rule out cooperation
Like
between.
what? Can you give an example?
I mean, on there are several political issues which need to be discussed. For instance, there has been a lot of talk about the certain issues under 18th Amendment. There were differences, there were difference of perception, but I'm sure there will be some middle ground found on some of the controversial
So
matters.
it is your optimism speaking. Let me come back to Javed Siddique Sahab. Are you optimistic also? Or do you agree with this assessment that People's Party and PMLN are not going to cooperate in the parliament till the time they don't get any breather?
I think yes, I agree with that because PPP and PMLN both, they consider this process of accountability which has been started by the PTI government as something vindictive, as a vendetta against opposition by Mr. Imran Khan, the Prime Minister, and his party.
How?
So-
These cases were not made by the
They were
present
not,
government.
but pursuing these cases vigorously by PTI and
I mean, they speak about it on television.
exactly, but asserting again and again that there will be no NRO, and the recent assertion of the Prime Minister that he is ready to talk to the Indian Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, but he is not going to give any concession to the opposition with regard to the cases of corruption against
But
them.
here's the point. Modi is Prime Minister of an independent country. Yeah, we are not talking about compromising on your principle. That is corruption. Here,
Right.
the issue is of corruption.
Of course, but you know, both these parties, PMLN and PPP, they are saying that these cases are being pursued by the government and they are being, pursued vigorously and strongly and consistently.
How
Because
is the government pursuing it?
you
This
know,
is the question.
they claim that the NAB is being used as a tool against them. I mean,
By
this
whom?
This is their by
The current government?
by the government. This is persistent.
Misconception?
No, this is persistent claim of the opposition parties. So, given this
I was
situation,
just trying to put a word in your mouth.
Okay, given this
Failed.
situation, I don't think there'll be any easing of tension between government and opposition. The relations between the government and opposition are not going to be a positive one, and
Will
the
that happen?
the working relationship that is required to legislate in the parliament and actually to solve the basic issues of the country. The Prime Minister has also, and the government, in the government, they have suggested to opposition that let's go for a new agreement, at least what they call an agreement on the economy of the country.
Charter of Economy.
Charter of Economy, and let's join our hands and sit together and chalk out and frame a new Charter of Economy so that the country is out of this economic morass.
Right.
But nothing has been done because the opposition is not going to cooperate.
Right.
So this is one aspect.
And regarding Mian Nawaz Sharif, why is it that his party is not accepting some kind of treatment within the country?
Well,
He has been thrice Prime Minister of Pakistan. He can go to any hospital.
But again, you know, a twist is being given by the government side that it is Nawaz Sharif who did not build the state-of-the-art hospitals or the health facilities in the country so that if a person is seriously ill, he could be treated in Pakistan.
No, if you are not trusting your own hospitals,
Yeah,
is that not the message that you are
this
giving?
This is what actually this is being interpreted by the government side, that this is because of Nawaz Sharif, because he was in power for 5 years as Prime Minister and before that even, and his brother has been the Chief Minister of Punjab
10
for
years.
almost 10 years, and he has not been able to build a new modern hospital where his brother could be treated. So, I mean, a kind of another accusation against the PMLN government that they did not pay any attention to improve the health facility.
That is true.
So
but
that's-
you're talking about narrative. Our concern is treatment of Mian Nawaz Sharif.
Exactly.
Right, and
So,
that is a big
but-
issue.
but precisely for this reason, he has gone to the court of law so that he gets a relief. He expects to get a relief, and if he's bailed out, he can go abroad also for treatment.
My question was, why go abroad when you can be treated in this country?
Well, I think, you know, those are secondary issues. The
No,
first
it is a primary issue. If it is
the
about
basic argument that's being given against him going abroad or anywhere is that, you know, he's a regular convict and, you know, he should be treated like a regular convict. But my question is he a regular convict? Not just because, you know, he was Prime Minister 3 times. My basic question is he in jail because, you know, there were very solid cases against him on the basis of which he was tried and then convicted, or all these cases mainly political?
Dr. Saab,
So
once
in my
again you
view,
are-
he's more a political prisoner rather than a regular
Dr. Saab,
convict.
you're again litigating something that, at least as far as the courts are concerned, has been decided.
Yeah.
I'm asking you to comment on something that hasn't been decided yet. Why do we need to go abroad for checkup? Is it really an assessment, in your view, that there are diseases or health conditions which cannot be treated by any hospital in the country?
Well, I mean, if it's something so complicated, you know, obviously everybody would, you know, like to have the best treatment available, and obviously, you know, there
That
aren't.
is not here in Pakistan.
In Pakistan, you don't have hospitals as good as the ones in the UK. That's very clear, you know. And it's not just Nawaz Sharif, you know, anybody.
I don't
Like
want to believe
when
it.
Mr. Imran Khan had a fall, initially he stayed here, but on the first opportunity, he went abroad for treatment for his back problems because you don't have those kind of hospitals here.
Did he
in
go abroad, sir?
Yeah, I can show you the clipping.
Okay, right,
So
sir.
that is the issue. And then, you know, there are the other issues about, you know, the way, you know, his case is, you know, being transferred from one hospital to another. There's no clarity. One day you hear something else from the government, the other day you hear something
Yeah, but we are
else. So it's
talking,
unnecessarily,
Dr. Saab,
you know,
with due respect, we are
politicized.
talking about a country whose doctors saved a kid who had a bullet in her skull, and that child actually grew to be Malala, right?
Yeah, that's
and
fine.
and our doctors did that. Ask any doctor abroad; they'll tell you how
But, you know,
difficult it was
the
to
heart,
stabilize her.
heart problems have their own
So brain is more
complications.
complicated than heart. But
Yeah.
let me go to Nasir Jafri sir. What kind of message does it send?
First of all, Patafi, I think that let us first ask Mr. Nawaz Sharif himself. What does he want?
Okay.
Does he want to go abroad for treatment, especially in presence of good doctors and hospitals that we have? We have very good doctors, no doubt.
Or we can bring in the doctors from
We,
abroad.
no, there is no need. I mean, God forbid he is not suffering from some very serious disease, very serious problem.
No, actually, it is said that his condition is, worsening.
Precarious.
It might be because he is refusing any kind of treatment, but he is not very stable.
No, but I still will insist that he should prefer staying back in Pakistan. And if you talk to him, he will say he would not like to go abroad, because politically this will be a big mistake on his
Yeah.
part if he goes abroad.
So
Because
why
he will
refuse to
annoy
get
his own
treated?
people, because people will be every right to say he does not have any trust in his own people.
Right.
Number one.
Jafri Sahab,
So,
then why refuse treatment from your own doctors?
no, I mean, he has not refused.
It is said that he is refused.
No, but for instance, if somebody comes to me and says, Pitafi was saying that you should not do this, you should not do that, should I trust him? No, until
no,
you
but,
you
it is
say it
truth.
yourself.
It's a truth that I've
Mia
literally
Nawaz
walked out.
Sharif.
I've literally walked out of many hospitals.
My own feeling
So
is-
there are people who might actually
Well,
refuse.
there are men and men in this world. There are very good doctors in Pakistan also, if you go to different hospitals. Number two, my own feeling is that Mr. Nawaz Sharif himself realizes that when he left Pakistan in 2000, it was his mistake. So that is
No,
why.
it wasn't.
Huh?
No, it wasn't.
No.
He survived. He came back to become prime minister. So
Yeah,
it was a
you're right.
master move actually.
But we have another example
Benazir Bhutto?
in the past when Mr. Bhutto had refused to go abroad.
Yeah.
So that is why my
That
own
was a silly mistake. Though.
yeah, but
Because
no,
had
but
he not refused, he would
I mean,
perhaps have
yes.
lived.
If you go abroad, it means that you don't have any, trust in your own people. I mean, this is what I have been saying in the past also on many times, that our politicians are in the habit of going abroad for medical treatment. Why not in Pakistan?
Right. Javed Sadiq Sahab, earlier you wanted to comment on this.
I wanted to add that actually a kind of politicking is going on the element of Nawaz Sharif. And I think this should be separated from politics. If he is genuinely suffering from a very serious disease, I mean heart problem, and he has a chronic heart problem.
Yeah.
So therefore, I think it should be viewed and seen by the expert doctors.
He had a botched up, operation of heart
in UK.
Ages ago.
Exactly.
And then there was problem that there is a clot that keeps on moving in his body.
Instead of doing politics on this, I think it should be left to the experts. I mean, the doctors of the country, and one of his doctors, who is his personal physician or a heart specialist, a man who is doing cardiovascular things. So he should be consulted at other.
But he is not coming on air.
But if they give this opinion to the government that he needs to be sent abroad for treatment, and I think that should be seen from the human angle, not from the political angle. And I think the government will earn a good name if he is allowed to go for abroad, for treatment abroad, and then if they are willing to get a bond from him that he has to come back to the country because he's been convicted. So I think that should be the solution to this problem. But if this, this discussion continues for a long period, for an indefinite period of time, no solution would be found to it.
Right. Let us now talk about People's Party's condition as well, because we know that fake accounts case is moving forward.
Yes.
So what exactly is People's Party going to do in coming days?
I think People's Party's position is very vulnerable because there is very hard, concrete evidence with regard to these fake accounts that have surfaced. And I think
But
investigation
today
has
there
been-
was an objection that 3,000 pages are missing from the record, which were to be submitted to the court. And that's why the application was rejected, and then it is going to be presented again.
Yeah, but the case is still there, and I think it's being investigated, and that has been shifted from Karachi to Islamabad. And let's see what happens at the end of the day. But I think apparently, prima facie, the case seems to be very serious, and I think that, to my mind, serious allegations are there against the former president and his sister. and that needs to be probed. And if it is proven beyond any shadow of doubt that they were involved in creating these fake accounts, and through these fake accounts they laundered billions of rupees from Pakistan.
Whatever GIT report claimed,
Yes.
if it is proven.
If it is proven, they should be penalized. I think the law of the land says that money from Pakistan should not be laundered by a person who was the president of Pakistan and who had all the powers, and he was supposed to safeguard the law of the land and the integrity of Pakistan rather than indulging in corruption and crime of this nature.
Right. Dr. Niaz Mirza, your take on People's Party? Sir?
Yeah, I think it's become, more aggressive in the past few days, with some of the statements that, Bilawal has made about filling jails and so on. So I think they're fearing something. Now, let's see, it's very difficult to predict in Pakistan. You hear these claims about very strong evidence. Maybe they have this time. But it's also true that, the same claims were made about the JIT report of Mr. Nawaz Sharif, and now what you see is, case after case is, just collapsing. So, but, the principle is there. If there is solid evidence, definitely, he and the sister should be tried for that. But what we need is, an even-handed system where, there's not cherry picking, everybody it should be dealt equally. And then, the individual processes, etc., and the verdicts should be clear that, everybody says that, yeah, he's been, convicted for the right thing. But, what the People's Party will do, I can't imagine them, going in for, any sort of agitational politics, even if he's, arrested, say, for example, if Zardari, if Asif Zardari is, jailed and arrested. I think they will just, focus on, the media strategy, the strategy within the parliament, but I don't expect, any sort of agitational politics at this stage.
Okay, so what happens? It will continue, keep on dragging?
Well, yeah, what happened with Nawaz Sharif, you didn't see any agitational politics even then, he was disqualified, he was removed from office, he was sent to jail, but there hasn't been any, sort of agitational politics, whereas I think the PMLN is in a stronger position to do agitational politics, given the fact that it's popular here in Punjab, around Islamabad, Rawalpindi. It can bring more people on the road.
GT road areas.
Yeah, those areas. But even they did not do any agitational politics, and I think they should avoid that. But then at the same time, the processes, the legal processes should be above board as well.
Right. Nasir Jafri Saab, People's Party.
Allegations this time are really quite strong and substantial. And I think that...
You are referring to the GIT report.
GIT report, yes.
I've read it and it makes
yes,
a lot
and
of sense.
the allegations are quite serious this time, quite substantial. And my own feeling is that if these allegations are proven correct, they should be penalized, as Javed Siddique Saab has just stated. I don't think there will be any agitation or anything of the sort, because as Murtaza Saab has just pointed out, Mr. Nawaz Sharif was disqualified, then cases were sent to NAB, and there was no agitation at all. Although they were quite strong, they were on quite strong footing.
Agitation is one thing. We are talking about something else as well. Parliament. Lawmaking stops. Will continue to stop.
Lawmaking will stop, but the question is that if somebody is found involved in corruption, should you let him go? For just because we have to do legislation in the parliament. Legislation is important.
Here's the concern, and I'm going to, ask.
Do you want to set up some good precedents for you?
General Pervez Musharraf, when he came into power, he said that he is going to hold everybody accountable. That then for the economic growth and for the stabilization of the country, he let them go. And then we saw that situation changed and economy started growing. Right now, you have 4 challenges. India is a big challenge. Afghanistan situation another. Your economy is another. Legislation or lack thereof, any legislation is another. Do you think that at this moment, government or state of Pakistan should continue without compromising on anything, or should it start compromising so that Pakistan can move out of the woods?
But should you just close your eyes from the corruption that was committed in the past? Should you set a new precedence for your coming generations that look, you do corruption and we will just let you go for the sake of.
So how do you continue without making laws?
You know, as far as this India thing is concerned,
Economy?
India, as far as India is concerned, there has always been and there will always be oneness. And the entire public support will be with your armed forces. On Afghanistan, you don't actually need any legislation. I mean, Afghanistan is something that your foreign office is responsible, your concerned agencies are taking care of that, and economy, government will have to certainly take steps to improve economy. Legislation is something where there are problems. The current parliament has not been able to legislate. But I mean, there can be middle ways, certainly.
Javed Siddique Sahab, do you think that we are approaching that Musharraf moment when things had to be actually mended for the greater good of the society?
I think we have done it in the past, and we have seen that for the greater good, I'm using your phrase, of the country, many compromises were made. The NRO, you know, that we...
Two NROs.
Two
First,
NROs,
Mia Nawaz Sharif allowed to go abroad,
and
NAB
Benazir.
scaled down, and then this.
Benazir. So, you know, these two NROs are now being quoted, cited again and again in our discussions, in our national discourse. But I think they have done huge damage to the country.
How?
I mean, the process of accountability was started, and there were serious charges of corruption against the then Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto and Nawaz Sharif. And
but Pervez Musharraf Sahab continued to rule the country for 7-8 years.
Of course, but if you evaluate the situation now, people feel that it was a big mistake on the part of General Musharraf to let these people go scot-free. So, you know, again, if you are going to compromise, as Prime Minister Imran Khan is saying that there will be no NRO at any cost. I mean, people feel that there should be no compromise on the law and the justice system of this country. Corruption is the slogan of this government. They have come with the mandate to eliminate corruption from the society.
Is there a possibility that the government can go for another election?
This is what I think they should and they could, because this
How
survey,
soon?
you have just quoted the survey, IRI survey, in which they say that 84% of the people are happy with the way the government is being run. And if that happens, and if they gain further confidence through their policies, economic policies particularly, at one stage, maybe after a year or couple of years, they feel that they are strong enough to go for fresh elections. They could go for fresh elections to get...
One more year?
Yes, and get a mandate.
After one more year.
And get a mandate from the people again on this issue that they want to make the society corruption-free, that they want to eliminate corruption, that they want to give this country a clean, neat and transparent system of government.
Dr. Niaz Mirza, do you think that we are approaching Pervez Musharraf moment when one has to start mending fences, or B, are we nearing another nationwide election?
Well, you know, you can't really justify letting people off the hook just because of political reasons. But, you know, the point that is important is that, you know, it should be even-handed. If it's happening to the PMLN and PPP, then it should also happen to, you know, the senior leaders.
Aleem Khan is in jail.
But,
Babar Awan has been indicted.
Okay, but you know, there's no, just let me. there's no JIT, there is no fast tracking. I'm talking about those kind of things, the kind of the model that had been, used for say Nawaz Sharif, that, the Supreme Court took notice under 184(3), it formed a JIT, then, it had fast tracking, it had supervision of lower courts, etc. Let's have those kind of the same model now,
Right.
there's
But
a JIT.
just to clarify one point, Mian Nawaz Sharif, after the case started, continued to stay out of the prison for 2 years.
Yeah, but, he
But
was
Aleem
disqualified.
Khan has been apprehended.
He was disqualified, okay.
And Aleem Khan has been
And
apprehended.
it's still at the inquiry stage. You're not having, a conviction or even a court case right now. But what I am saying is, if it's even-handed, then nobody has an opportunity to complain that, this is a bias. This
So
is
no
vindictive.
compromise.
No, I don't think there should be any compromise. But
More
it should be
justice,
even-handed.
more equality,
More equality,
accountability.
more accountability
and
for
transparency.
everyone.
Okay.
Then the second question is about elections. I don't know. I mean, this IRI survey that you keep mentioning, it wasn't 84%.
No, I have mentioned twice.
It's
I don't keep
57
mentioning it.
It's 57% who were satisfied, and
Yeah.
that was 3 months ago. This survey
Yeah.
was done
The
back in
first 100
October or
days.
November,
Yeah.
when it's right after the election, when there's this feel-good factor and so on, and
The
many of
feel-
the mishaps had
The
not.
feel-good factor has increased. It hasn't gone
I
down.
doubt it,
India,
especially-
India episode.
Especially if you
PSL
look at
of
the
Teen
economic
Nathati.
situation, and if you say another year, we are going to have the IMF program in the next couple of months, and there's going to be more devaluation, more inflation,
When after June?
more fiscal
After June?
cuts after June.
Yeah.
So, and 1 year from now, I think the economy will be right down at the bottom of it. So over the next 1 or 2 years, if you try to hold elections, there is no guarantee that PTI will have the same kind of
Yeah, but
goodwill
at this
that time.
moment, the situation seems untenable. It has to move in one direction or the other.
Again, and I
People's
think
Party is not going to cooperate in lawmaking till the time there is
we
no
can
compromise.
only be
right?
sure of that if they bring bills. Have they brought any bills? Has the PPP refused to consider bills that are on the floor in the parliament? There's
Yeah.
nothing. Even on the
That is-
fact of
That's a good argument. Let
of
me
the
ask.
military courts, which are I think
Nasir
expiring
Jafri
on the
sir.
23rd, there isn't even a bill on the floor yet.
Nasir Jafri Sahab, why is it that the government hasn't started its legislative business? I mean, come on, bring a bill to the floor.
I mean, if you can see, this government has been quite preoccupied with so many things. I
Like
mean,
what?
like, first of all, you had major challenge of economy, first of all. Then,
It is always there.
Yeah, no, but there should be somebody to, settle this issue.
Asad Umar is
or
there.
at least to make efforts to settle this issue. Then
We have a finance minister.
yeah, yes, certainly. And then this Afghan issue also came in quite briefly.
We have somebody to take care of that as well.
But of course, certainly, government's attention as a whole actually gets diverted to these problems. Then then this India-Pakistan tension began. Okay, so but as Murtaza Saab said, they should bring legislation in the parliament, and I am pretty confident there will.
National Assembly.
One thing that I am really unable to understand, I am at a loss to understand, why we always start talking of fresh elections whenever government actually completes or is about to complete its first year. I mean, why
Should
don't we
should
say?
I- should I tell you why?
Why don't we say that let us actually complete this process? Let
know,
us take it to a logical conclusion.
I tell you why.
Yeah.
Because previous governments kept on saying that there isn't going to be any election. This is not what this government says. They say that they're open to new elections as well.
No, but this is not the argument. The argument is that when the government is not taking any big initiative
In the parliament.
in the parliament or outside the parliament.
Outside the
I mean,
parliament, they have created,
no, but see, the
initiatives.
economy is a major challenge. They are very optimistic that they'll be able to improve the economy of the country. I mean, Asad Umar, you have mentioned, the finance minister is very optimistic.
Yeah.
And he's saying that we are going to be out of the woods very soon. So if that happens, that will be a good story. But I think the economic challenge is there. The challenge of legislation in the parliament is there. And if the government feels that it is stuck and it is not moving forward, then in all democracies of the world, the solution, the alternative is available and the option is available. The option is to go for fresh polls.
Okay.
And if they are
But
confident.
this council is not being heard by UK's
No, no,
government.
but
I
you
mean,
see-
we
no,
can
no, no,
copy the
but,
budget.
but
this
if the
is
PTI government is confident enough
Okay.
that they have earned the goodwill of the people on their agenda of eliminating corruption,
Okay.
and they are trying to establish a transparent government, fair government, and they want to do justice to the people,
Right.
and they are going for it, and they have a lot of sympathy among
Then
the
they
common
can
people.
go and muster
They can
this
go
one,
and
yeah.
test their
That-
strength.
that's
Well,
a fair
Badawi,
point.
one thing.
Jeffrey sir, we are told that
yeah,
we
yeah.
have done
No,
short
no.
of
One
time.
thing that I would say that when we talk of elections, fresh elections, we should also remember that this is a big burden, financial burden.
That's a big point, by the way.
This is a.
We are
I mean,
talking
a
about
country
economy,
like us,
and now you're going
yes,
to spend more money.
We are just pumping in billions of rupees to hold fresh
is not
election. I
more-
mean,
money
doesn't
i-
make any sense.
Money is not more important than the future of Pakistan and the country.
Yeah, but sadly we don't have money. Sir, your
I think it
conclusion.
would be very risky at this stage, for the PTI to go for elections for the next 2 years at least, There's no guarantee that it is going to win. And then again, it might come back with a very thin majority.
But it might
So
be a concern for the government, not for the common citizen.
I think the best thing is to, try to improve the relationship with the opposition. Don't create unnecessary controversy.
So you have to write the
speech-
next column in
the
which you have to
speech-
tell us how can it do that without actually
Just stop
compromising
giving
on the
these
principle.
silly, speeches.
You
It's not
cannot-
about the principles,
No, no.
it's about the kind of speeches that they do.
I mean, come on.
Asad
I mean,
Umar's
come on,
speech,
that is not the
Fayaz
issue.
al-Hassan's
You
speech,
cannot.
Those are the big
you
issues.
cannot appease the opposition unless you compromise on this agenda of
Accountability.
Well,
That-
bring bills, then
yeah.
we'll know.
Yeah, but one has to
Simple.
talk about that as well. Javed Siddiq Sahab, thank you very much for your time. Dr. Niaz Murza, thank you very much for your time as well. Nasir Jafri Sahab, always a great pleasure. Viewers, you have listened to our participants. Of course, the political situation is such that we keep on talking about various aspects. But one thing is for sure, while there might be some issues with the legislative branch, when it comes to the executive, we don't see that kind of a serious, challenging situation. Economy is a concern, but it is something that slightly and silently is being addressed. The only problem is that perhaps we don't have that kind of magical momentum that we could have if we had a parliament which was not that hung. This is today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.